99th episode of the Korea podcast. I'm your host Jack, located here in South Korea, Ulsan, very sunny tip of the South Korean peninsula. Today is the 18th of January. Welcome to another beautiful Monday. Let me just check to make sure that there is no feedback on the sound. Oh, good. Very little delay. We're good to go. Music is obnoxiously loud, so we're going to shut that down right now or put it into a mellow, kind of soft mode. The Korea Podcast is a podcast that talks about anything and everything related to the working and living and working in South Korea, as well as around the South Korean peninsula. And in the past, the podcast was called the Hagwon Startup Podcast, which is sponsored by Shane English Korea. And if you're in the business of if you're looking to start a business and be your own boss, if you're looking to start a franchise of an English school here in South Korea, then give me a holler, because we are a franchising industry with 40 years of experience across 14 nations, and we're located right now in South Korea. This is the 14th location. We've been here for 5 years, and we'll continue to stay here for a very, very long time. So if you're in the business, if you're looking for start a business of any kind that's got to do with teaching English, give us a holler. There you go. 18th of January. Welcome to 2021. Second week in a row, I guess. Yeah, right. Lots to do. Lots to talk about in today's podcast. There's a lot of topics. As you noticed, the name Expat Fatherhood, which really is not a very, it's a pretty broad term, and so fatherhood does not really only apply to being a father, but I mean there's so many aspects of being a father, being an expat father, being a father or an expat in general, so it's kind of hard to just limit it to one thing. So there's lots of topics. I'm hoping to keep this podcast short to the regular 30 minutes that I hope to do on a weekly basis without a guest. But because there are so many topics, chances are I'm going to go over the 30-minute limit. So sit back, relax, grab a cold one or a hot one. Stick around. If this is your first time to the podcast, then smash up the likes. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, support the channel. The Live in Korea podcast is the only podcast. The Korea podcast is the only live podcast run on the YouTube channel on YouTube that brings you fresh breaking news. Well, I don't know breaking, but fresh news about South Korea from South Korea. Chat window, nobody here who's watching. Is there anybody watching? Nobody ever watches anything I post immediately, so people usually come in the end. Anyway, okay, so unfortunately, this particular podcast does not start with anything that's as upbeat as I might come across right now. There's been another incident of a infant death in South Korea. So that's the first thing on the menu. I'm going to talk about that briefly. There will be Korea news, prison scandals, North Korea, South Korea, population decline, vaccines, and expat dads in South Korea. So there's a lot on the topic, which is why I am putting out the warning that it might be a little bit longer than 30 minutes, because I'd like to talk about some things and I've got stuff to talk about. So I'm going to talk about it, because why the heck not? And I have a list. Somebody commented on the last podcast that they love it. So thank you very much. I wish I could have pulled a thought about it before and pulled up the comment, because there are some people out there who do enjoy the podcast, and so they're grateful, and I'm very grateful for them being grateful or enjoying it, right? But the suggestion was for me to include timestamps, which is what I'm going to try to do. But after the podcast, having to watch over the entire episode, if it's an hour long, it's kind of difficult to put in timestamps. So I've got my thing, and I'm going to put in timestamps as I go along. That's the intro. Okay, right now we are into the what's the timage here on this timestamp timage? 6 minutes 21 seconds. Alrighty, we'll put down around 6 minutes 30 seconds. Korea has experienced another fatal and saddening event, and it breaks my heart to talk about this. It's saddening. It's very surprising that this is happening. That it happened again, of an infant death. A child was left to basically freeze to death in the winter here. Korean infant found frozen. This is reported by, I have no idea what website, koreaboo.com. Korean infant found frozen to death inside a residential complex. Koreans continue to the fight for better child protection laws. President Moon issued a statement which was received in a, I guess it was phrased quite clumsily. And I just found somebody posted on Facebook, so I picked it up and I'm going to show it to you in a little bit. But there is content warning in this particular paragraph, in this in this article. I'm going to copy and paste it. I'm not going to go through the entire article because it's heart-wrenching and it's pretty hard to digest, to be honest. So the Ilsan Sobu police station in Goyang City, I have no idea where that is, Korea, has arrested a woman in her 20s. So another young mother for murdering her newborn baby girl by abandoning the infant outside the apartment building. The article goes on to say that this happened on January 16th, just last year, over this past weekend, when temperatures were ridiculously low. When the police received the report, the average temperature in Goyang fell to a blistering 12 degrees below, minus 12 degrees Celsius, with a citywide extreme cold wave warning issued. The infant was discovered by a neighbor from a residential complex. The neighbor claimed to have found the naked, frozen body of the most secluded, narrow alleyway within the complex. According to the neighbor, the infant still had her umbilical cord attached at the time of her discovery. So it just gives me shivers reading about this, man. It's really disturbing. I read through the article. I posted it. I'm not going to read through it because I don't know. I feel like it may be too much for some. The police investigation has since revealed that the mother threw the infant out the window after having given birth to it in the bathroom of her apartment. The mother is said to have attempted escaping the crime scene, though the police tracked her down to a nearby building shortly after receiving the report from the neighbor. It's disturbing that this happened, but what really disturbs me, what really gets me thinking is what has led this young woman to commit such an act, to do this. Like, I mean, this is a mother who has carried a child inside her womb for, 9 plus or minus months, has gone through, I can't imagine what she must have gone through. A single mother here in South Korea, without obviously a father or anybody without a support group, has decided to give birth on her own by herself in a bathtub. And then, how do you not create a bond of attachment as a mother to a baby that you're carrying inside your womb for so long? And then decide to throw it away like a piece of trash. It's horrible. So I don't know the person. She must not have been well, and nobody can be well in their mind to do something like that, anything of that sort. And so I can't imagine the circumstances of her life that must have brought her to this point of committing such an act. And so while the police are, the mother now faces a murder charge through the police, though the police is still working on figuring out the reason. Following the disheartening news, Koreans are coming together online to voice their concerns and fight for better laws that can actually protect infants and young children. The mother could have at least took the baby to a center or even one of those baby boxes. If you are new to the Korean adoption and child abandonment issue, there is on YouTube. You probably have to. You can find it on YouTube. There is an old man. I don't remember if he's a priest, but he has a child box. There is a box in the wall, like one that you could open like a mailbox, and you could slip a baby, unwanted child inside that box, close it, and then the man basically is on the inside. It's like the wall is built on the side of his building, and he receives the babies on the inside, and he basically brings them into an orphanage and adopts them. So it's a very strange scenario, but there were some officials or some places were trying to shut down this guy from from having the box functioning. But I mean, I think that's a better alternative than this. And I can't imagine that this is not traumatizing, or it won't be traumatizing for this mother in the long run. Like, I can't imagine anybody not having to go through some kind of trauma after committing an act like that. That's just, it doesn't, I don't think a normal human being will just not feel fazed. So a lot of Koreans, the community in Korea is, I guess, because there were so many of these things happened recently. Last week in my last podcast, or maybe that was 2 weeks ago, I think, I reported about Jungin's death, the 18 months old baby that was beaten to death by her adoptive parents rather, not step parents. And prior to that, there was another couple that I talked about, actually two more, I think, in that particular podcast, with similar stories to tell. So a lot of Koreans are clearly, as people should be, stepping up and doing something about it, I guess, or voicing out their opinions, discomforts. And so apparently President Moon has gone on on the news. President goes, I don't know why Jungan doesn't scroll up here, this part of the dingy ding ding. So let's see. President Moon Jae-in weighed in on the tragic death of an adopted toddler who was battered but went too far for many. So this is, I guess, this is a comment he provided in response to Jung-in's death. Not this particular case. This is a new one. Children. So this is what President Moon had to say. Children are not commodities to be traded, wrote a citizen. Oh, okay, not true. Well, on the Blue House website on Monday, just hours after Moon's comment that an annual New Year's press conference, you can't adopt a child and try it out like you're trying on goods, and then ask for a refund if you don't like it. So this is in response. So I wonder what President Moon actually said. It is heartbreaking to hear of the deaths of young children abused at home, and I agree that the country has to address the issue full on, Moon said in the response to a question. We have to come up with a system that will be able to detect earlier on signs that the children are being abused at home, and then separate the children from the parents once these signs are detected. One of the failures that the case of Jung-in is that caregivers in the kindergarten have reported on possible child abuse in the child's home, but the police had not taken the proper measures to take care of it, and which resulted ultimately in the death of the baby. So continuing the statement by President Moon, I'm going to try to see if I can adjust the window a little bit here on the browser view, because I think there's a bit of it cut off. Let me just leave it. I'm just going to read it for you. Okay? There should be thorough research beforehand to find out if the parents are fit to adopt children. And even after the adoption, the family should be checked on to see if the adoption is working out. Regular procedures back home, I think, and definitely should be something that should be taken care of, right? If a family decides, or people decide to adopt, um, parenting is not easy. Parenting your own children is not easy by any means, and I think in many cases people with the best intentions will want to adopt, but then unless you've done it again and again, nobody really knows what adoption is like. Um, After all, you're dealing with you're taking care of another human being that is, it's not of your own production. Sorry, that sounds weird. I don't know how to phrase it. That is not. It's not your child. Basically, you choose to adopt a child for whatever reason, humanitarian reasons, but it doesn't always work out. And like parenting is tough. Fatherhood is tough, and so in any cases, there should be some kind of support for parents adopting. I mean, there should be support for all parents, because I mean, these things happen in homes of biological parents as well. There were cases of that happening as well. So it's not like this only happens in cases where the children are adopted. Clearly, this mother today, the first article I just read came from a birth mother, which is just gruesome. So there should be a better system to support young parents and families, and I think caregivers and police should be more responsive to reports like this of possible abuse, because it seems like nothing has been done in that case, and it leads to tragedy. Moon said, if it is not, then there should be a measure to cancel the adoption. If the problem is that the parents don't get along with the children, then they should be able to find ways to make it work, such as changing the adopted child. That's where the problem comes in from Mr. Moon's comment, and it clearly shows kind of the comment I just made, that people have no idea what it's like to adopt. Like a comment like that clearly highlights the problem of adoption. Most people have no idea what it's like. Most people don't even know, before going into parenthood, we have no idea what it's like to parent. And like this statement clearly shows that, adoption or parenthood through adoption is just a complete mystery to the majority of people. The other day my wife suggested we should adopt, and I said definitely no, there's no way, for many reasons. But that's something that I don't think we would be able to handle. And I think anybody who feels like a mushy feeling, I want to help somebody, like, we're not talking about puppies and cats that we pick up from the street and we can take care of. Like, it's another human being, and it's a very different set of rules, and you can't just make flippant decisions based on like a warm fuzzy feeling in your stomach, right? Okay. Wow. Alrighty. Timestamp. We're at 20 minutes. 1940. 1941. Moving on to Korea news. Korea never amazes to surprise me. The Associated Press has a plethora. If you find it from today, oh my goodness, is there enough to talk about. North Korea's parliament rubber stamps new development plans. Moon urges Biden to learn from Trump's North Korea diplomacy. South Korea court gives Samsung sign prison term over bribery. And believe it or not, this is interesting because this, I don't know if you followed, I didn't know, but this ties in with this. So that's what we're going to start with. That's what we're going to start with. As soon as it loads, there it is. South Korean court upholds prison term for ex-President Park. I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you do. For those who have been here for a while, I'm sure you remember. The former President Park Geun-hye has been tried for bribery, and she's been put. Her sentences, she's been sentenced to 22 years. 22 years Oh, how come it's not highlighting? Interesting. 22 years. There you go. 22 years behind bars following a separate conviction for illegally meddling in her party's candidate nominations ahead of parliamentary elections in 2016. But the finalizing of her prison term also makes her eligible for a special partner. Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. But here, this is an interesting part. So the newest multi-millionaire on trial is South Korea's heir to the Samsung chaebol, company. The billionaire Samsung Sion Lee Jae-young was sent back to prison. This is not his first visit. On Monday, after a South Korean court handed him a 2.5-year sentence for his involvement in a 2016 corruption scandal that spurred massive protests and ousted South Korea's then president. Then president being Park Geun-hye, Park Geun-hye. In a much anticipated retrial, the Seoul High Court found Lee guilty by bringing then President Park Geun-hye and her close confidante to win government support for a 2015 merger between two Samsung affiliates. The deal helped strengthen his control over the country's largest business group. Do business have sway over what happens in the party, in the government? Abso-freaking-lutely. All the time. I know for a fact it happens all the time. Which is why government officials should never ever be invested in private companies. But they are, which is questionable. And in Korea, it's like almost the politicians and the CEOs of the big companies don't see anything wrong with it. Kind of like, remember, I don't know if you remember what happened with the Bitcoin thing, right? And it's a different story because it's not technically a company, or it isn't a company. So anyway, moving on. Wearing a mask and black suit and tie, Lee was taken into custody following the ruling. He didn't answer questions by reporters upon his arrival at the court. In Jae, an attorney, blah blah blue blah blah. In September last year, prosecutors separately indicted Lee on charges of stock price manipulation, breach of trust, and auditing violations related to the 2015 merger. There was foul play at play. Companies become rich, not on the backs of hardworking people, but through manipulations. Samsung didn't show much sign of trouble during the previous time Lee spent in jail. So Mr. Lee was in jail between 2017 and 2018. Already he came out and now he's back in jail. So the multi-billionaire is, in and out of jail. And yet the company does fabulously well, as if to say we don't really care whether you're there or not. Interesting? I think so. I think it is abso-freaking-lutely interesting. Yup. Prison scandals. Okay, that's it on the prison scandals. Very interesting. So the owner of Samsung is going to prison. Oh man, when was that? That was like, let's say 22. Okay, 22 maybe. North Korea is on the menu at 25 minutes. Here we go. Continuing with the news, North Korean Party Congress begins with Kim Jong-un's confession of failure on the economy. Like, damn. Kim Jong-un saying, man, you know what? I closed my country off. Everything, I started shooting people who were trying to enter North Korea because I didn't want them to bring COVID-19. I don't want to say the W word because that's offensive. So COVID-19 it is. And one of the most important events in North Korea started January 5th as Kim conveyed his message over the quarantine and economy. North Korea's Korean Central News Agency, NKKCNA, reported today that the ruling Workers' Party 8th Congress had what's going on? Convened in Pyongyang, the capital, on January 5th. I am confident that the Congress will work as a stepping stone for our struggle or strength of our national power and improve people's lives. Blah, blah, blah. What's the interesting part? He said something. There was a quote. He admitted that, so Moon, Jong-un, not Moon, Jong-un. I'm horrible with names. The North Korean dictator. The 5-year economic development plan has failed in almost all sectors. China and the North's biggest trading partner, and amid COVID-19 border closures, trade between North Korea and China fell 76% year on year. President Moon urges people in South Korea to help North Korea, and North Korea for years has been sending help packages to North Korea, and I guess it continues to do so. And apparently, under President Moon, that has expanded, and it seems like a lot of people may be thinking that President Moon is geared on really reuniting the two nations. It should be interesting. I don't know what's going to happen. The party Congress, I don't know. Anyway, it's weird stuff. Weird things are happening on all fronts. Next thing. 27 minutes. Population crisis. Korea. Well, this addresses both the North Korean problem and the problem with dying children. South Korea is facing a crisis of extinction, and it's not due to North Korea's nukes. Yeah, everybody was fearing that North Korea is going to attack. Probably not going to happen. I don't know. Some people believe that North Korea has nuclear weapons. Do they? I have no idea. Who knows? They may not. But South Korean population is on a decline. First fall in population. Think of major threats to South Korea and its nuclear-armed neighbor North Korea to become blah blah blah. So North Korea basically is not the threat. Less births, more deaths. Annual births have been falling for years in South Korea, and it had been exceeded by deaths for the first time in 2020. So 2020, which was last year, there were more deaths than there were births in South Korea, as per data. And I guess part of it could be to blame on COVID-19. South Korea's population totaled at 51,829,023 people that we don't really count because they're too little. Down 20,000 from the end of 2019. So there were 20,000 fewer people born, or 21,000 almost fewer people born in South Korea in 2020 than there were in 2019. That's crazy. COVID blame and But so one thing I don't understand is I'm being told that new graduates in Korea, university graduates, are graduating and they get out of universities and they've got no jobs. They can't find employment. There's like thousands and thousands of university grads in South Korea leaving universities and not being able to find work. But yet the complaint is that there is a drop in population. If there aren't enough people in South Korea, then why are all these university grads going unemployed? It seems like there are way too many people and all the jobs are filled. Maybe a decline in population is not such a bad thing. Everybody keeps talking about lack of labor force and this and that, but it seems like there's an overflow of labor force, and there's going to be people who become unemployed because all these young grads can't find work. So I don't know. I'm not an economist, but it seems to me like that's the case, right? There's a lot more people than there are jobs. So Korea's not short on labor force. It's short on labor, it seems. Hyundai's not hiring. Samsung's not hiring. Nobody that excessively. Nothing new, added. So I don't know. Yeah, you don't know, Jax. You're such a butthole because you don't know. Nice. Nice. Timestamp, 31 minutes. Baby. This is something that is going to bring a smile to a lot of people's faces. I know it. There's a lot of smiley faces out there. So happy. Check it out. And it's been on social media for a while. But South Korea to vaccine its 52 million people for free. Yeah, for free. Fear not. No distinction between expats, foreigners, or tourists. I don't know what the population of Korea is on a touristy year. If it increases drastically or significantly or so insignificantly that it doesn't go beyond its 52 million population point. Right now, Korea stands at something like, I don't know, if you go on Wikipedia, it's like 51 point something people. So it seems like Korea is going to be vaccinating everybody for free. So there you go. Happy? Okay then. Line up, people. Seoul, South Korea's president says the country will offer free COVID-19 vaccinations to all its people in phases. President Moon Jae-in made the comment in his New Year's address on Monday. The government earlier, and which Monday that was, I don't know. This is from January 11th, so like last Monday, I guess. The government earlier announced that inoculations will start in February. South Korean officials have said they'll have vaccines for 56 million people, which is way more, like 5 million or 5 million over the number required for its 51 million population, right? Hey, J-Vlog. Hey, man. Oops, I'm late. No problemo. I think this is going to go a little bit longer. I already made the disclaimer at the beginning that I've got so many topics I want to talk about, and I'm covering them whether you like it or not. This is one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning. If there are any people listening still to this point, midway through probably, I have had comments telling me that if the podcast were to stream on, like, you know, one of the podcast streamers, not on YouTube, but on actual podcast providers, then they would be a lot more willing to listen to it. Problem with that is, for me personally, I could do it. I am not that tech savvy to do it. It's probably not a very big thing, but I lack time. I may be able to do it, but if you're out there, you know how to set up an RSV. What is it? RSV, yeah, an RSV. RS feed. I don't even know the acronym for it. See, that's how horrible it is. If you know how to set one up without too much of an economic expenditure, then please drop me a message, let me know, help out. Please, because it would be great. If we could get the podcast on, you know, some kind of podcast stream, Applecast or whatever else, that would be great. And if not, then I'll have to do it myself. But it would be fantastic if anybody out there in Radioland were able to and willing to help out. That would be fantabulous. J-Vlog, welcome, man. We're talking about, vaccines. I wonder what it's like in Japan, man. What's the story for vaccinations in Japan, J-Vlog? Drop us a message. In Korea, apparently all 52 million of people are going to be getting free vaccines for the COVID-19. I don't know if it's Moderna or there's the other one, AstraZeneca, whatever it's called. I keep messing up the name, so it's something like that. Officials say they'll work out detailed inoculation plans later this month. They say that these recommended to get vaccinations first will include medical personnel, elderly people, adults with chronic diseases, police, and soldiers. After surging for weeks, South Korea's virus caseload has gradually slowed amid those social distancing rules that include a ban on gatherings of 5 or more people. Earlier Monday, South Korea reported 451 new virus cases, the first time its daily tally has fallen below 500 in 41 days. The country's total stands at 69,114, including 1,140 deaths. Moon said that at the end of the dark tunnel is finally coming into sight. The end of the dark tunnel is coming into sight. Yeah, thank goodness, man. Because we are on our last breath here on our business, man. Things are hard. J-Vlog, man. J-Vlog says, all we know is that frontline and elderly are getting it first. No idea what the cost will be. Right. Japan is backed by the USA, so don't worry. You got your asses covered there. So, yeah. Okay. Vaccines. Rumble, and timestamp 36 minutes. We are moving on away from the vaccines. We're moving on to the next step, the last leg of this podcast, which is expat fatherhood, expat dads in South Korea, and just expatty stuff in South Korea. Being a dad is a challenge on many fronts. Because in order to be a good father, you have to be a good husband. These two kind of go hand in hand. If you want to be like, in a family situations, clearly there are different types of families and where people work differently and children are brought up differently. But in the traditional sense of a family that's, propagated amongst our mainstream populace, the family that is known has two parental units and then how many offsprings there may be. And in order to be a good dad, good father, you have to be a good husband. And as an expat in Korea, like when you hear stuff like this of babies being thrown out of windows to freeze, it's mind-boggling. But it's something as a father, as an expat father, man, you got to deal with here on a daily basis, because when you hear that, it just, I don't know, it makes you stop and think. And I mean, this is not like it doesn't happen in other countries. It happens all over the world, which is just fucked up to begin with. But we are in Korea, or at least I am. This is the Korea podcast, and we are talking about South Korea. So that's why Korea is on the chopping block. Yeah, so so in my search today, I was looking at Expat Dad Stuff online, and I found a bunch of stuff. Like when you type in expat dads in Korea, this is what you get. And I am proud to say that here's a surprise. This is very cool. Actually, the first listing, you get Expat Dads in Korea on Facebook group. Very good group. If you're a father located in South Korea, then you're interested in joining a group of very good, solid dads who have a lot to say, check it out. So this is the first listing. The second listing is a group dedicated for the dads, made by those dads, and same kind of group. Third is a Korea Time an article from 2018 on whatever expat dads. What is it, like 1, 2, 3? Fourth listing is another article by the Korean Law Blog, which basically I looked at it and it just bashes, I think, the previous article. But on number 5, ladies and gentlemen, oh my god, like, I'm gonna enlarge this. Check this out. Yours truly. This is top 5 challenges of living as an expat dad in South Korea. This, my dear viewers, ships people, this is on YouTube. This is the video I posted in 2018 about fatherhood in South Korea. Believe it or not, it's on number 5, featuring number 5 on Google. You know how cool that is? That is pretty cool. I was stoked when I found it. This is the video. I'm not gonna play it now, clearly, because it's like I don't know. It's once it loads, you'll see it. Ah, there it is. Okay, how long is it? It's 11 minutes long, and it's me. It's got over the past year, it got 385 views. 2 years, sorry. After 2 years, it's gotten 3. It's like the only video on YouTube that is dedicated by an expat father located in South Korea for other expat fathers located in South Korea about fatherhood in South Korea. And it's like the least viewed video on the internet, on YouTube, even though it is the only freaking one. That means nobody cares about expat dads in South Korea. How sad is that reality, eh? Damn. Anyway, if you're interested, I'm gonna drop a link. Go check it out, man. Copy, paste. for all the expat dads located in South Korea or dads all across the world. If you're interested in what it's like to be an expat father, check it out. Check out the video, yo. Yeah. Okay. And so the article I found on the Korea Times, yeah, here it is. The expat dad on being a dad in Korea. Interesting. I haven't read it. I haven't read this article at all. So I'm curious to see what this fella says. It's written by Dan Gardner. I found that Dan Gardner on Google. I have no idea if it's the same person. The Dan Gardner that's listed on Google is a Canadian dude. He's a journalist that wrote stuff for the New York Times, I think. And it just seemed like his persona was too big for the Korea Times, so I kind of dismissed it. I don't know if it's the same person. Whatever, doesn't matter. But Dan Gardner, here's what he writes. I haven't read this article, so I'm very curious to see what it is. Okay, here we go. Being an expat dad in Korea is one of the toughest jobs. Okay? And parenting is not something that we talk about enough or get the chance to. We all have had this situation at some point. Sitting on the couch on a Sunday afternoon this warm spring, drinking an ice-cold imported beer you bought at the local mart, and your wife blurts out, "See, you need to be more like the dads on television." The thing is, you can never be truly prepared for being a dad. Just one day you are in the game. I never asked my dad how he did it. He just did. Being a dad in Korea is like escaping from a terrorist camp prison. Completely sleep-deprived, panicked, and living in the hope you stumble across help in the middle of the desert. It is a mixture of emotions. You are left to wonder whether you will ever see the inside of that bar in Itaewon again, to look online on Gmarket for the best deals on diapers, endless hours negotiating Hagwon books, and working out round-the-clock study plans for elementary school. In the blink of an eye, those freedoms you took for granted disappear. Partially true. Actually, a lot of it is true. The freedoms do disappear. A lot of your free time just goes poof. And I don't know if that's necessarily, being an expat dad or just a dad. Maybe, I don't know. In Korea, the family structure or the dynamic between a husband and a wife in Korea is such that... What is the light here, man? Is such that I gotta get me some better lighting. Is such that in most cases the husbands work and the wives stay at home. The women stay at home. They're still to this day, which kind of makes sense because when both parents are gone, then you end up having to hire a caregiver of some sort and have to pay them to take care of your kid instead of staying at home by yourself and saving yourself a few bucks by not having to pay a caregiver to take care of your kid and just taking care of your kid by yourself. So that makes perfect sense to have one parent stay at home, take care of the children while the other person goes to work. And in Korea, when you work for a company, companies provide. Okay, working for a company in South Korea is not like, from what I understand, I've never worked at one, but it's not like it is back home. The companies in Korea provide people with benefits, sometimes huge benefits. Hyundai and Samsung, I'm pretty sure both companies, for example, pay for all of your kids' educational needs. If your kid needs to go to uni, everything's paid for by the company. The companies give people stuff, like annually, they give them stuff for free, bonuses, this, that, televisions, refrigerators. I've heard people getting refrigerators and televisions from, I think, SK or something like that. I don't know. Oh yeah, good water. So, yeah. When dads take care of business, like when we had our firstborn, my wife stayed at home and I worked at a university, and then I did privates here and privates there, and then when we moved I worked some more university stuff, and we had another baby, and then I worked more privates, and I used to come home and I used to do the gombubang, the in-home studies. Man, it was just like go from one place to another. I would come, spend all day, and there was no time for myself. I had none. By now, I am not even used to having time to myself. The only time that I have to myself is the time that I spend on YouTube, the podcasts, and editing videos. That's my life. You might wonder if I have friends. Hell no. The entire Uslan community hates my balls, man. Nobody respects me. I get no respect, Joe. Back here in my hometown city. Kinda, it's my hometown city, right? But it's true. Fuck it. It's okay. Being in a okay, where was it? But escaping from a prison, I don't know, terrorist camp. Dads are not like moms, clearly, for many reasons. Expat dads are not surrounded by library and books and mommy training manuals. We don't spend months at classes with friends and family. We are the lone wolf. You don't have the family backup from home. The closest form of acknowledgement we get as an expat dad is that nod from the other sleep-deprived dad that you may pass on the subway. That is spot on. And it's in pretty much everything that this paragraph says. There isn't a lot of literature for fathers on how to be a father. Very, very, very little. There may be a little bit more, but like when I was a little dad, my cousin gave me a book. It was written in a language I couldn't understand because I was little, you know. But it was a good book. I passed it on to another friend who was becoming a father, and that book basically laid out the stages of a baby the baby was going through step by step, and I thought it was a fantastic book, and I wish I could remember the name for it, but I don't. But overall, the literature for new fathers is very limited. There aren't as many books, as many resources as there are for mothers. Also, dads tend to be less likely to interact with other dads, like out on random streets, compared to how mothers interact. Like if mothers meet, they're more likely to talk to each other. I don't know in Korea, because in Korea it's a bit weird. Like you don't talk to strangers, you don't walk up willy-nilly to strangers and strike up conversations. That's perceived as a little weird. So, but back home, from what I understand, dads don't really talk to other dads so much, which kind of makes it, a bit alienating. So, and in Korea, you've got all these other things going against you. You don't have your family from home here, so the only family you have is to rely on is your children. You may find yourself in a position where you have a very good rapport with your in-laws. Maybe there's a brother-in-law that you hook up with and it works. But I think in most cases that is not the case, and so most expat dads here in South Korea have lives during which they rely, for comfort from wives who may or may not be emotionally available for the most part, and then their kids who are still kids. And so, groups like the Expat Dads in Korea Facebook group can be a lifesaver. A lot of the guys out there are located in Seoul, which makes it very handy because you can hook up with some dads. And unfortunately for me, I'm not in that area. I did meet a bunch of the guys from there a couple of years ago when they threw a Halloween party and I had the chance to visit, and it was fantastic. The guys were great. Okay, enough advertising for that group. If you're here, check it out. Let's continue with the article. It is not only doom and gloom. Being an expat dad is like being Willy Wonka at the chocolate factory. You get your childhood again with a bonus. You get away with things that local dads normally would not do. You get to be a big kid and get away with it. It's the perfect crime. You discover you have someone else who shares your taste in dipping French fries in chocolate shakes. You have someone who shares your love of 80s movies. The greatest day in fatherhood is when your child dresses as a Star Wars character and you have your first lightsaber duel on your couch. Yeah, that would be fantastic, actually. I gotta get my kids some lightsabers. As a dad, you must also be prepared to memorize the entire musical score of Frozen. Oh God, no. I'm lucky enough that my kids passed that, man. And act out the part of Sven, the Academy Award-winning conviction. You have someone who shares your love of fart and poo jokes. That's true. As a 5-year-old, there is nothing funnier than farts and what shapes we can make in the toilet bowl. Going through the toy section at Home Plus becomes fun again, and you share some interest in friends. For friends such as Elsa, Poro, is that Pororo? And Sheriff Woody, or maybe from the Toy Story, will become your friends. They are on the guest list for any family dinner, on the occasion tea party. These are just some of the many perks that take the stress out of living in a foreign country. With Parents' Day coming up, spare a thought for the dads, especially the expat ones. Yes, actually, pretty good article. Not particularly well written. I mean, I probably couldn't do any better. But as a reader, you're a lot more judgmental. But yeah, it hits home. A lot of truthfulness in this piece. A lot of truthfulness in this piece. Yes, okay. So, I guess to wrap it up, I wanted to show this. I don't know, I found this. I have no idea what it is, but it's Expat Kids Korea. If you're an expat dad, if you're an expat in Korea, there's this website, free advertisement for you people, whoever you are, expatKidsKorea.com. You can advertise your business on here for free. I have no idea if this website is new, if it's old. What's the limitation here? Facebook, there's a Facebook link. Yeah, they've got a lot of stuff. I guess they're just selling schools in Yongsan International School of Seoul. They're selling international schools, SK Telecom. There may be something of interest. Check it out. Check it out if you're interested. So yeah, that's it. That's it for this podcast. 52 minutes. Timestamps. Last timestamp. What is it? 52 minutes. Ding ding. Conclusion. Oh yeah, these timestamps are going into this video once it's processed, once it's up on YouTube and all that stuff. So yeah. Very nice. I am very happy with the performance. I am very happy with how things turned out. Everything's, everything's gone through. So that's good. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. J-Vlog, thanks for swimming by, man. Thanks for swimming by, man. It was fun to do the crawl with you. Breaststroke a little bit. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're new to this vlog, if you're new to this, if you're new to this podcast, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, bell off, because that makes a difference. Help the channel. You can do it just by clicking the button. Helps the algorithm. It sends an algorithm message to YouTube, letting YouTube know that this podcast, that this channel is worth a damn. Cause it is worth a damn. Hey, no proxy. Have a good one, man. Yeah, you too. So, yeah, don't forget to smash the like button. Thank you all for tuning in. J-Vlog, really the only person. If you're watching this after recording, then make sure you do smash the like button. Thanks for stopping by. Have a fantabulous rest of the week. And stay tuned for another video coming up on the Living Korean channel that's going to be uploaded sometime soon this week, hopefully. I tried to do it midweek. Never really successfully do so. Let's see how things go this week. Alrighty. Thanks again. Have a good night. Yeah, and if I don't see you, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon.